Welcome to another episode of Small Town Polar. This last summer we bought Jonathan's next tractor, and for once we bought something that runs, drives, came with all kinds of weights, and we were able to run it all summer long. So for once, we don't have to work on it this winter.
So let's add a turbo.
Okay, so that is going to happen. So here's Jonathan's next tractor. We bought it this last July, I believe, and initially we figured we were going to put together a tractor for Jonathan for when he turns 14. That was kind of our plan for him to do that. Well, then we bought this one, and me and Rose kind of ran it the first couple passes. We went up to Lone Rock, and Jonathan asked the president of the club if he could run it, and they said sure. So the last two events of the year, Jonathan actually got to drive this tractor. We kind of talked about just building one from scratch. I knew we wanted to go tube chassis, and then this one actually come up for sale. And as much as we are going to do a pile of work to it, it is a big start in the direction we wanted to go. So it did come with a turbo already. The guy that we bought it from was kind of leaning on or planning on going that way. So we are going to actually put a turbo on this thing. The other thing we are planning on doing is we would like to move the motor ahead, probably 4 or 5 inches. We're planning on going to an automatic. We have one already, and we have the adapter. It's going to be, we're going to try to put a GM Power Glide behind this. And then we are also going to redo the roll cage on it. We have a plan for this thing. Me and Jonathan have been talking about this tractor for years now on what we want to do with the sheet metal and for paint and stuff like that. We're not going to try to get that much done this year, but we are going to try to get the engine combination and the transmission and the roll cage and all that stuff done this year. Again, to try to make it to the spring shootout in Waterloo, and then hopefully everything works and holds together and we can go back up to New Richmond with it. The other two tractors don't need a ton of work to go down the track. We're going to try to do some improvements to them as well. But this is going to be our big project for the winter. So we're going to get up on jack stands. Jonathan's been really wanting to get going on this thing. I'll have him start by pulling off the header. We do need to get the cam specs off of this motor to send into the carburetor guy, because we are going to go blow through carb on this for the turbo setup. Went back and forth on whether we were going to go fuel injection or blow through turbo. And after talking with a bunch of guys running turbo motors, and they've done fuel injection, they've done carburetors, and they said for what we're trying to do, they think the carburetor setup is going to be easier for tuning and probably overall a little bit cheaper. So I think we're going to go with that setup. We need to change the way you get in and out of this thing. It is very difficult to get in and out of with the steering on. The shifting with the manual that's in it is kind of a bear. We do need to change up. Yeah, we did shorten the shifter already once. It does have a spool in the rear end. We have an open differential for that, so we got to put that in, and we got to change up the brakes.
The gearing is really,
the gearing
really
is off on this. It's currently geared too high. However, I'm hoping with when we put the turbo and stuff in it, and hopefully the transmission gearing and everything works out for us, but I'm hoping that all works out. So we're probably going to run the same rear gears that are in it for now, and then once we put the turbo and everything on it, I'm hoping we're going to be okay. But again, we want to move the motor head 4 to 5 inches, and we want to move the seat back probably 3 to 4 inches. So that'd be a lot better. It's got a bunch of, it already came with a bunch of weights. We're going to try to narrow up the rear end just a little bit. Yeah, we got to change the breather out. They had a little incident with a sled back in the day, the last guy did, and that's what caused that to be bent.
We flew and hit it.
There is some room to narrow up the rear end a little bit. The frame rails are plenty wide on this, but we are not changing that. They will work where they sit. So we've got a lot of work to do, but we've got a good start in the the direction we want to go. So first thing is going to be to get this thing up on jack stands, kind of get sitting level, and then Jonathan's going to start disassembling it. We got to figure out something with the steering too. The steering works very well, but for some reason when you put the pressure on the front wheels, it steers really hard. So we're going to have to look at that too. I think there's something just kind of binding up once there's the weight on it. But we'll get that. We'll get everything figured out. So Jonathan's going to get the jack so we can start getting it jacked up. But yeah, we're going to get this thing jacked up and get going on it. All right, so we're back at it. We had a little bit of time tonight, so Jonathan said let's come down to work on it. I was able to kind of start mocking up the turbo stuff on Friday afternoon. And something we are going to do is I'm ditching this wastegate. I got a hold of the company about it and asked them some questions, and they said we know nothing about that. So it's going to go back for sale, and we're going to ditch this one off. I actually ordered one from Precision Turbo today, so hopefully that will be here in a week. Jonathan is spinning the steering wheel.
Well, the steering sucks on this when it's on the ground.
Yes, the steering is kind of a bear on this thing, so we're going to do some work on that. But first, we need to make it go. So, we're going to get some studs for this. We got to find some of them so we can actually mount this solid. I did clock the turbo a little bit. Jonathan did point out that changing spark plugs in this thing is going to be an absolute bear. 3 and 4 won't be so bad, but number 1 and 2 are going to suck. The other thing is we are going to have to figure out spark plug wires because this is so tight right here that I don't know how we're going to get plug wire on that and routed. This one we can get routed, but it won't be fun. So hopefully we're not changing plugs a whole lot in this thing. Again, I don't know. We do have a 1-inch spacer in here. I don't want to put, I'd like to keep it like that. I'm not saying we couldn't maybe go to a 2-inch spacer. I don't know yet. But what we do need to do is I do need to go online and order some of these. We're going to get this wastegate back off, and then Jonathan's going to start to drain the oil. We're going to start running the oil lines for the turbo. We're going to come off the back where the oil sending unit is for the oil feed, and then we are actually going to drill a hole in the oil pan for the return line. So I've talked to a couple guys. They said that's how they recommend doing it. So we're going to do that. So I think that's where we're going to start. I'm going to have Jonathan go get the oil pan, and we're going to start draining the oil. Oh, man. Oop, I think you got it, didn't you?
Yep.
All right. Now come up here
Yeah.
and screw it out by hand. You can reach your hand actually probably right here.
I got it.
Yeah, well, make sure you're going to hold on before you pull it out too far. Oil's going to run down your hand, so if you come from the top.
There. Take your advice.
Let's see how bad the oil looks. There's only a couple passes on this oil.
That we know of.
No, because we changed it before. I'm trying to think of when I changed it. I would say there's only 2 or 3 passes on this oil. And I fully expect it to look, oh yeah, like that.
And I still got my hands oil.
Yeah.
Look
Set
at
the
that.
plug there. Yeah.
Alright.
So we'll let that
Where
drain.
do you want me to put this when it gets done?
We'll set it in the back. Once we get this done though, Jonathan, you're going to take, and we got to undo all bolts for the oil pan. So you have to get underneath there with a ratchet and zip all them off.
Okay. It's not done
All right, so Jonathan's getting ready to take out the oil pan. We just tried to run a spark plug wire in there, and I just don't think, with how close this is, I'm just nervous that we're going to start burning the plug wires and just it's not going to work. So, Amazon, which I know is not the most credible place to buy turbo parts, but they do make a spacer in here that tips it off to like a 45-degree angle. So it'll bring the turbo away from the manifold or the head a little bit more. It'll give us room for spark plug wires and make it a little bit easier to change spark plugs. It's going to raise up the turbo a little bit more, but I can still, again, clock this. So we'll still be okay. That'll be here hopefully about the same time the wastegate shows up, so that will work. So I'm going to start breaking oil lines loose and start going through inventory of what I have for oil fittings and start kind of putting that together. It's coming. Just slowly pull down on it once.
That bolt has to loosen before it comes
Yeah, I
out.
feel like you might be missing a bolt. Are you?
No,
You're good?
other than the one you put in.
Oh, there it's coming.
Hey,
Um,
stop.
Yeah, unscrew that one. You going lefty loosey, righty tighty?
Yeah,
Okay.
screwed it in far enough.
Well, I didn't want it to come out. Come on. Oh, it is holding it on here. Joe.
The gasket's holding
It
it.
is on.
That's the only thing. The thingy's gonna come out in the back.
Well, you're gonna have the oil. You getting it?
Yeah.
Hold on, you're catching the gasket right here.
Yep.
Let's
And
get-
over here.
Yeah, on here. Let's pull this off.
Do we
Okay.
need a new gasket?
We will put one on it, and then
There's one over here too.
it's still caught.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right, hold on. Alright, roll out with the oil pan. Let me move your hat so you don't get it in the oil. Oh, that's nasty.
So are my hands.
Yeah, look at that. That's not what we want in the oil.
That's fun.
So, we'll get that cleaned out.
Are we gonna like hose it out?
No, oil and water don't mix, so that's actually what this is. Methanol puts water in the oil, so that's what that is. But what we will do is we will end up having to drill a hole on this side, which we'll probably try to do it right up in front here.
Okay.
Because I don't see, we'll have to look, make sure nothing's going to hit it.
We'll have to make a little circle.
We'll
have to make a little circle and then drill it.
Yeah, but I got to get a fitting for that. I think.
A towel.
Yeah, we'll get a towel, but we'll get the pan out of here, and then we're going to put some things underneath it to making sure it, we actually might throw the pan up on there before we leave tonight. But we can mark it, kind of where we're going to drill the hole. I want to keep it up as high as I can, that way it ain't doesn't have too much back pressure on it, so that's what I've been told to do. So we will probably try to get it right up in here.
Yeah.
Let's get your hands cleaned up. Let's get them bolts and stuff organized. No, we're going to put them in a bag.
Oh, okay.
That way we're not looking for bolts, but we'll put them in one of the bags. In fact, I think there's a bag right there. But let's get them in there. Let's get kind of cleaned up, and like I said, we're going to keep working on these oil lines. All right, so we're back at it tonight, and parts showed up. So big thing that we really needed was this, the spacer. So Jonathan's going to pull that off. We're going to get this set on there.
We are not using
Yeah, we're going to end up not using that spacer there. The other thing we're going to do is this wastegate came with the tractor, this turbo came with the tractor, this manifold came with the tractor, and this is getting ditched. 2 reasons. One, when I called the company, it's made by, I think, NDA Performance, something like that. When I was asking about spring pressure or the spring settings on this wastegate, they had no idea what I was talking about. So that's not going to work. What we did end up getting is a new one from Precision Turbo. So we'll put that on. I got a bunch of pipes, stainless pipe and stuff sitting around. I got a bunch of elbows that showed up today. But what we are going to end up doing is when we mount this new adapter on here, we're going to change, watch out once, bud. We're going to change where the wastegate goes. I am not an engine builder by any means, but I do know that you don't want this at a right angle and you really don't want it at like a negative angle. So with the way this is sitting in there, that's not going to be the best way to do that. So what we are going to do is once we get this turbo off, we're actually going to mount the wastegate on this side and have it come straight up out of there off of that adapter. So that will actually help us with our exhaust plumbing too. So Jonathan's going to get that. We're also going to get the bung welded in the oil pan so we can get the return line done on that. We're going to try to get that welded in so then Jonathan can start putting on the pan while I start getting the new mount made for the wastegate. So he really wants to get that off there, so he's going to get that taken off, and then we will get to work. All right, so Jonathan's going to fill up the bucket there, and we're going to fill the pan up with about 5.5 quarts of water. And I want to make sure my return line, I'm hoping to put it right up in here, but we need to make sure the oil return line for the turbo is above the oil level in the pan. So we're going to fill it with about 5.5 quarts. And hopefully we have plenty of room, like I say, to put it up in here in between these 2 bolts. And hopefully that will work. We'll get that drilled. I'll weld that in tonight. And then I should have a new oil pan. And Jonathan can start putting that back together. So it'd be nice to get the oil pan button back up and on there. Make sure we get all the water cleaned out of it. Yeah, 4 quarts, bud.
No.
Is that heavy, huh? Don't chill. I think we're going to have plenty of room. Pour! Alright, go get 2 more quarts. Let's make sure we have enough room in this.
Is it gonna pass?
Keep going. I don't even know if it's going to make it up onto here. There it goes.
Barely.
So,
If I would have had a little bit more.
that's next. I've got the pan pretty level. It might be sitting up a little bit in the front. But that should be 6 quarts right there. And according to that, we should have plenty of room any place up in here. So I don't see any issues with that. You said that was another 2, correct?
More than 2.
Okay. So we should have plenty of room there. I'll weld it in, and then we will get the pan mounted back on. That might hold. Perfect. So that's gonna be ready to go back on. I have a spare oil pan gasket, but what we do like is now we can actually get all the spark plug wires and stuff on the way we want them to, and I can take
Some quality.
That's not a hammer. I mean, at least use. Uh-oh.
It still didn't work. What?
Let me see.
I just can't get it on there tight enough.
Yeah, I'll help you here in a second. But what we can do is kick this off like that, and then we can mount the wastegate on there. So that will be very nice. So that's going to be the next thing I'm going to do is start cutting this to mount the wastegate while Jonathan keeps working on taking that intake off. No, we're not putting the wastegate all the way up here. I need this.
How would we put the charge pipe?
Well, we'll have to reclock the turbo. Because the other thing this is going to do is instead of trying to bring the wastegate exhaust over here and up to this one to match with this exhaust, we'll have the wastegate exhaust right here, and both of them can come up right here. So we'll get the exhaust closer to the driver.
And
get the fumes closer to you.
You are forgetting the most important part.
Yes, and we can put the spark plug wires on, which was not going to happen with the turbo sent the other way. So overall, much happier with this setup. Did find out though, I mean, you know, this is a high quality intake when the flange has actually got a little bit of a bow to it. So I'm pretty sure we can get a leak in there or just stack a bunch of gaskets.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not looking to make a ton of boost anyway, so
it's nothing gaskets can't fix.
Yeah, just gaskets, silicone, you know, we'll make it work. Duct tape. Epoxy, yes.
Yes.
So
how about make everything look better?
Yeah, how about we just try to make it seal the way it's supposed to?
Maybe.
All right.
There's always that plan B.
Plan B, C, D, as many plans as we need. And how many extensions does it take, man?
1 or 2.
Did you get it? I'm assuming so, because now the intake's coming loose. Would you like me to hold up on the intake for you?
Oh, wait, that didn't work.
Here, I got the intake. Alright, so we got that off. Perfect.
This thing is a little bit Tyson jank. A little bit.
However, this is actually going good over here. The pipe is all cut. I got it marked. We're going to be able to get the wastegate up in here, and that's going to make the exhaust work out perfect. We can reclock the turbo where it needs to be, so I'm going to pull the tapered spacer or the angled spacer out and cut that and probably try to get that tacked in yet tonight. It'd be really cool to have all that tacked together so we can mount the wastegate, and then we can pretend that we can put on exhaust to make exhaust noises.
Dad, come here.
Oh boy, this is going to be bad.
Yeah.
What?
Really is.
What in the heck? What? I mean, I'll never tell you when I'm an engine builder, but...
Oh, that's that bolt.
That's a bolt right there, but what the heck, man?
What the heck is that?
That's the intake bolt. Look at that. Where'd they all go? Probably just shoved them in the oil.
No.
It's like a mouse got up in the exhaust.
Oh,
or in
no,
the intake. Which cannot be.
Good. What is that? Are those like little berries? Where's the shot?
Wow.
Where's the shot?
Look at that.
What?
Eat one.
Uh-uh.
Oh, I hate that. Safety squints. Working on my tan.
Yeah, you got more of a spark tan than a spray tan.
A spark tan, I like that.
Yeah,
So this should
sparky
go
tan.
like this. And currently it's angled more than I want it to. And that should work. Ended up getting, I don't know what I did there, got a little too much of a gap there. I thought I had a better fitment than that, but this will work. This will go right on in here, and then we'll create both exhausts off of there. So I think that's what we're going to kind of work on Saturday. I'll put a couple more tacks on here, and then we'll start tacking together the exhaust. And then once I get all that stuff tacked together, I have a buddy of mine that does welding for a living. He says it's stainless, and I don't have any stainless MIG wire. I'm going to have him weld it all up for us, and then hopefully the exhaust side will be done. We are going to end up cutting this off and putting just a plate in there, or capping that. So we're back at it this morning. I think our goal today is going to kind of either get everything tacked up, which we got to do the wastegate and exhaust, and I'd like to get this cut off and put a cap bolt on there. If I have really good luck, we're going to get everything welded. I did go buy some stainless wire. I was going to have my buddy TIG weld all this stuff, but I figured why not ruin it myself and try to MIG weld it. So I think we might try that this morning as well, but we're going to get all of that done while Jonathan is going to work on getting the oil pan cleaned up and getting that put back on. So it'd be nice to get the oil pan back on, because then we can actually put the starter back on. Again, we're going to try to get this thing started here in about a month. So have it run, fired up, ready to go. At that point, if we had to, it would go down the track. So then we're just going to keep working on other things and try to make it so it's always drivable. Again, like to put the transmission in it before Waterloo, but I just want to make sure it makes it to Waterloo. So I think Jonathan's going to start cleaning the pan. I am going to start getting the exhaust stuff figured out. Jonathan almost has the base of the pan cleaned up, and we were talking about everything. And the old expression, measure twice, cut once. Yeah, so that goes for welding too, because this bung right here is supposed to be over here. So Jonathan just gave me that look like, what the heck? So we're gonna have two welded in the pan. We'll just cap this one off. But yeah, unfortunately, you know, I should have probably looked at that a little bit better. So yeah, that's my bad. I'll take ownership of that one. So we're gonna get another hole drilled here, get another bung welded in. I just switched the welder over to stainless wire, so I'm probably gonna use stainless wire to weld that on. Shouldn't hurt anything there. So we got the exhaust pipe tacked on, and me and Jonathan are both looking at it. It's angled a little far forward, and it should be pretty close to right angle off the turbo. This is supposed to be a 90-degree elbow, and I'm not gonna say that maybe ain't off a little bit, but when you actually stand down, the whole thing kind of leans forward. Some of that could be, I mean, we'll have to see if this changes at all. When we move this, this is gonna probably rotate on there. So we'll have to kind of try to get most of that stuff kind of bolted into place where it needs to be, but all that kind of looks like it's at a little bit of an angle, so we're probably going to try to correct that some. I don't love that it's at an angle, so everything looks good there. So actually, it does look a little goofy right there, so we might see if we got something going on there. Otherwise, first part of the exhaust. I think now we're going to mount the wastegate and then probably fix the pan so you can install that. So let's go get that done. And that's better. We ended up, I wanted to leave some length on the exhaust. I thought about cutting it down here so I wouldn't have a little bit of that angle right here, but at the end of the day I wanted the exhaust to stick up a little bit more, and that ain't gonna hurt a whole lot with flow. So there we are, a little bit more straight. Might still be a little bit towards the front. But the tractor I think is also leaning a little bit towards the front. So we got that, and then we actually, it should be, which the cage actually looks like it's a little bit off, but it should be completely, it's within, what, 0.1 degree of being parallel with the frame rails. I'm not going to be on camera because I've got a huge smile on my face because it's actually turning out. All that's tacked in place, the brackets, all the pipes are tacked together. This looks like this is going to work, and I am pretty stoked about it. A lot of trimming to do, but again, overall, where the wastegate comes out is about I'd say, a pretty good angle. And the turbo sits at a pretty good angle. And
We
everything
need
about
to
this.
clock this.
Yeah, we do need to clock this. And to boot, the spark plugs are actually going to be easier to change
Then
with the turbo
old
setup than
one.
what we had with the
Old
old
exhaust.
header on. But our next step is actually to take all this back apart and me to do a pile of welding, and then we can actually start to mount some of this stuff for good. So we're going to take everything off, and Jonathan's going to start to mount the pan, and I'm going to sit in a chair and just start welding. So I'm back at it tonight. I'm going to try to get more of the turbo stuff done. I made a crucial mistake the other day when I was working on it, and there's a lot of stainless hardware in here, and for anybody that doesn't know, stainless fasteners do not mix well with other metals. In fact, it almost works like Loctite, and while trying to fit a bunch of stuff, I twisted off a bolt. So now I get to drill that one out, which is a huge time saver. So I screwed that up. I knew that, and was running stuff in and out. I also think when I was doing that, did not have this tightened all the way, so when I was adjusting the wastegate exhaust, I think I may have screwed that up. Otherwise, this is all kind of bolted together. Got all these fastened together, got that capped off, so all that went pretty good. Where the tube comes out for the wastegate, all that went pretty good, other than my welds are my welds, so got that going for me. But otherwise, I'm going to try to get all that stuff taken care of tonight. Then I can start clocking the turbo. I messaged the guy today about kind of an update on when the carburetor is going to be here, so hopefully I'll hear back from that in the next day or so, and we can kind of get this all put together. But once I get this done, I can run the oil lines and then start getting ready to run vacuum lines as well. So we're going to get back at it. Well, it looks like I might get kind of lucky. I end up having to drill it out. These used to be, where was that? These used to be threaded. They are no longer threaded, so you do need a nut and a bolt. But what it did do is these were already bigger, like a 3/8 bolt, where I didn't actually have to drill this out. I just drilled this out to the same size, and even the washer or the gasket in there was already set up for that, and it looks like the exhaust is going to work. So yeah, I'm gonna have to drill that just a little bit, and that is going to sit down a little bit lower than I wanted it to, but overall the gap there is good, and I think it sits back a little bit. It is not perfectly level, but it sits pretty parallel with that one, which is kind of what I wanted. So I think overall it's gonna have the look kind of I wanted, which looks don't make it go any better, but I still want it to look kind of nice. So I'll get that pipe all cleaned up, and then we'll be able to put that back together. So I'll probably wait for Jonathan to bolt that back on, because I know he wants to look at it once it's all bolted back together. So we'll get that done. Next, I think I'm going to start loosening up and clocking the turbo. Oh, I got to put these bolts in yet. I went to hardware store and got them, so I'll get all them bolted in, which hopefully that don't change anything. So looks like she's going to work. Just going to go on. Jonathan's getting, don't tighten them all the way, bud.
Why?
You want to get all of them started first.
Okay.
Get all of them started before you do that. Jonathan's putting the new gasket on the oil pan. After that, we should probably put this breather back up in there too.
Yeah, where's the socket?
Right here. Dad had it. We lost it.
Yeah.
But Jonathan's going to finish getting all the oil pan stuff done, which will be nice, because then that can be kind of buttoned up and done. All the pan got cleaned out and everything. And I'm going to finish buttoning up, if I can do it without tripping over him, the exhaust. Everything's kind of cleaned up and ground as good as we're going to get it. Just got to finish bolting everything tight. And then the turbo exhaust will be done. Clock the body of the turbo. I'm waiting on some oil line parts to show up, and then I can actually finish the oil lines. I've got all my fittings for the returns. We'll get that done. This isn't clocked 100% yet, but it is closer to where it's going to be. So next I'm actually going to start working on the charge pipe part of it after I change out the wastegate spring. But we should have the exhaust side of this finished up tonight. If we had all the parts for the oil lines, we could have that stuff finished up tonight too. So
We could start it if it wasn't good.
could dang near start it and make turbo noises, which is our end goal. Because at the end of the day, if we're not going to win, let's just make cool turbo noises.
It's all about the picture.
It's, yeah. What did we say to the guy in Waterloo? Was it all about the picture?
He said that.
Yeah, all about the picture. If we're not going to win, it's all about the picture. And there we have it. Hot side of the turbo is done. Jonathan's got the pan all in, and we're back to waiting on parts to finish the oil lines. Story of our lives. We do have a bunch of other parts ordered. The new seat, brake rotor hat to kind of start building them. Bunch of little stuff is coming, but we are waiting on parts, so we are going to dig into some other stuff. But we're happy that that's done. That's one big part of it accomplished. So you can see Jonathan's already got the fenders and stuff off it, kind of getting ready to maybe put the new cage and stuff on and do the new throttle and get ready for all of that. But I think that is going to be it. And that's it for this episode of Small Town Puller. Hope you enjoyed watching us build the hot side of the turbo kit for Jonathan's new tractor. If you like what you're watching, please like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you next time.